All right, it looks like our participants have logged on in and ready to rock and roll. First of all, once again, thanks for joining us today. There's a lot you could do on a Saturday. There's a lot of universities out there that you could be logging in with, or visiting on a day like today. And it really means a lot to us in the admissions office that you took some time out of your Saturday morning or Saturday early afternoon, depending on where you call home, and to hang out with us and learn a little bit more about a university we all love so much. And hopefully you get a sense of that love and appreciation for Minds throughout today and throughout the sessions that you've been a part of so far. You've heard a lot about student life. You've heard a lot about what the academic experience is like. Potentially, you've also been able to sit in and listen to fellow parents that are talking about how their students' experience at Minds has gone thus far. This session is primarily about the logistics, the what next, right? The okay, what's it like to apply? What is the potential paying for college looking like? And then we'll open it briefly for a little bit of Q&A. My name is Luke Contreras. I'm one of the assistant directors of admissions at Minds. And I just want you to know that there is a whole team of folks like me that is here to help answer some of these questions. Some of them are logged on and will be in the Q&A, such as my coworkers, Mackenzie, Max, Nicole, Louisa. And so if you do have any questions throughout this session, please feel free to drop those into the Q&A, and they will gladly answer those. And then we'll do a live Q&A towards the end. So let's talk about applying. Now, you've heard some of these dates a little bit already, and a majority of you are seniors and that are visiting today or logging in today. Now, which is exciting. It's crazy to think that you're in that college search process, a point of your high school career. So for my seniors, the dates that you're going to see and that I'm going to reference are going to be addressed to you. If you are a junior or younger, good for you for logging on to us early and looking at colleges early. I did not look at colleges early, and my mom and dad were not very pleased about that. But although the dates might change year to year, the philosophies that we're going to talk about do not, or will not be changing drastically. So you're going to get a good sense of what will Minds look for when I apply down the road. So let's get going. So at Minds, we like to use something called the holistic review, which means you're a whole person to us. It's not just the numbers when we look at a student for admissions. And if you look on this cool diagram, it gives you a good sense of everything that is potentially fair game when applying to Minds. We're going to look at the high school you went to, the classes you took in high school, the rigor of the classes you took in high school. Rigor is that fancy word for difficulty, right? AP, IB, dual enrollment. We're going to look at your involvement, whether it was in the community or in your high school or both. We're going to look at the letters of recommendation if you get a couple of those sent to us. We're going to look at the short responses to the college application as well, if you send those our way. I just really hope you realize that there's going to be so much when we evaluate your application to determine whether or not we're a good fit for you and you are a good fit for us. One thing that I do want to highlight that is kind of unique now, well, not unique now, but is a huge paradigm shift, and that is the conversation around test scores. Test optional has been a thing that's been growing in higher ed for many, 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 many years. But a lot of our universities, including Minds, kind of went test optional in response to COVID because of access to the ACT or SAT. And so I'm excited to say we're test optional for the foreseeable future. And I always get asked, how test optional are we? And we are fully test optional. So what that means is when you are applying to Minds, you truly do not need to send us a test score. We do not need an SAT. We do not need an ACT. They're just one data point into who you are as an individual. So it's really, truly your choice if you want us to see those test scores, because the single greatest indicator for your academic success is your GPA, right? It's who you are on a daily basis versus who you are on some random exam, on some random Saturday, and potentially at some random high school. I like to tell the story of my SAT experience. I love him forever, but my dad signed me up for the SAT on the day of prom. Do you really think I was in the mindset to rock the SAT on the day of prom? The answer is no. I have been in college admissions for almost 10 years now. And I have not seen a lower SAT score than mine when I took it on the day of prom, because my dad thought that was a good idea to take both of those major events and put them on the same day. So what I'm telling you is this: when you are applying to Minds, the number one goal of the application is to paint yourself in the best light. However, you get to define what that best light is. And so if your test scores, if you took those exams and you're like, yo, I am proud of those test scores, send them our way. If you've taken the test and you're like, I don't know if my test scores truly depict me in my true academic best light, then don't worry about it. If you're like me and the idea of a major exam that quote unquote defines your future gives you test anxiety to where the butterflies are more like pterodactyls, cancel it. We don't need it. Obviously, every university's policy is different. I'm only speaking on behalf of Minds, but I can tell you right now, on behalf of all of our admissions staff, we're pretty pumped we're test optional because we feel like we really get to know the student a lot more through our emphasized holistic review process. So like I said, this diagram gives you a sense of everything that is fair game to share in the admissions process. Now, we always get, how do I apply to Minds? So there's actually two ways to apply to Minds. There's something called the golden application, and there's something called the common application. What's the difference? Well, the golden app is the Minds specific app. The common app is that cool tool that I believe 900 universities use now and accept as an official application to the institution. We do not prefer one over the other. You know, I think there's this perception that, oh, if I really want to show Minds I want to be there, I should use the Minds specific app. That's your choice. If you're applying to a bunch of common app schools, logistically and efficiently, it just makes sense to use the common app. If Minds is maybe one or two schools you're only consider applying to, maybe our app is a little bit more up your alley just because it's a little bit simpler. It's your choice. There's no preference. We just want you to apply. Another unique thing that we do in our admissions process is we do not need official transcripts when you apply. You may go to a high school where you're graduating classes a few hundred, and where your high school college counseling team is kind of a little engine that could, and sometimes maybe needs, is getting pummeled with transcript requests this time of year. Well, to make it easier on you and to make it easier on them, we will take unofficial transcripts for the admissions process. And that might just mean logging on to your student portal and downloading a PDF and emailing it to us. That is just one quick way to apply to Minds or to make this application process a little bit simpler. Now, when you do apply, we do need to see certain classes either completed or in progress by the time you apply. And you see those listed before you. We want to see completed or in progress trig or pre-calc, and we want to see in progress or completed chemistry and or physics. So something to keep in mind as you're building your class schedule, and something to keep in mind if you're looking to see if we're the best fit for you as a university. If you're my juniors, if you're a junior on here and you're already in pre-calc, that's awesome. You've technically met the minimum, but I encourage you to take that next step and maybe jump into an AP Calc and continue that momentum and really kind of run through that tape and really feel confident in your mathematic background as you look into Minds being your potential university of choice. Now, the timeline, the win is huge when it comes to applying to Minds. For my seniors, you've heard this a little bit earlier today in the welcome. Our deadline is November 1st, which is crazy to think that's little less than 2 weeks away, or just about 2 weeks away now, that our priority deadline is November 1st. Yes, we technically have a priority deadline. We do have a regular application deadline of January 15th, but please do not wait till January 15th. The earlier you apply, the better. That is always the thought process. Nothing about our admissions process is binding. Some universities have a binding admissions process. That's their prerogative. That's their choice. That's how they roll. But that's not how we roll. You purely just apply to Minds early, to get admitted to Minds early, and to help plan early as well. So if you are a senior and you apply to us by November 1st, I guarantee you'll hear back from us by December 21st. So you can have a nice Minds holiday season as you celebrate your accomplishment of potential admission. If you applied by the September 15th deadline or September 15th date that we had previously talked about earlier in the year, we guarantee you'll hear by November 1st. So I know there's some of you on here that applied by then. You're going to know in 2 weeks, which is kind of crazy to think. But if you haven't applied yet, you do have 2 weeks to then get everything into us. If you are a junior, these deadlines may evolve and may change by the time you apply in a year. Do not worry. By the fact that you attended today's event, we'll keep you in the loop about all these updates. Our marketing team will absolutely make sure that you're on the same page about communications, about when we need your Minds application by. But you can plan that the application will be live for you by the mid to late July, if not early August. So kind of keep that in mind as you plan ahead. Now, you do not, or a student does not have to commit to Minds to May 1st. That is the national commitment deadline. We follow that. But you can commit the moment you're admitted. That is up to you and your comfortability and your confidence that we are the best university for you. We like the idea of being admitted by the end of December or by mid to late December, so you can have a handful of months to talk about financial aid with us, to maybe Zoom with a professor and learn a little bit more about some of our majors, or potentially reach out to us in the admissions office to learn more about our clubs and organizations. So definitely, we want you to apply early, to get into early, and to continue to learn about this university that we love, about this community that is truly something special. Now, obviously, the big consideration when picking the right university is paying for school. I always tell folks, you want to find a university that does 3 things, that is academically and emotionally and financially the best fit. And if a university does all 3 of those, then I believe that's the perfect university for you. And so we're going to talk about the financial fit of Minds. Now, I'm about to show you some big numbers. I'm not going to shy from that. But instead of looking this through the lens of buying a product or buying a commodity, I want you to truly think this as an investment in your future. And this is the biggest investment I think anybody can make in their life. That's why I love working at universities, because I know what the investment of my higher education did for me, and I love doing it for future students as well. So if you go through that lens of investment, I think we can help have this conversation in a really positive way. Also, the coolest thing about this investment is it doesn't depreciate. This investment will only grow over time as you are a proud alum of an amazing institution like Minds. So we are a public university. So that does mean there is an in-state rate and an out-of-state rate, depending on your residency. Now, residency is a very complex process. It's a very complex topic. If you have any more questions about residency, our registrar's office can help that process and help you navigate that. Use us as a resource to connect you with that registrar's office, but for the sake of today's presentation, we're not going to really touch on residency because it truly is a case-by-case situation. So you do see the total cost of attendance. Now, those numbers still will fluctuate. Not a lot of families and students will ever pay that total bottom line. That is before scholarships, that is before financial aid, and there is even some fluctuation between those numbers based off of what kind of residence hall you live in, based on how you budget getting back home and back to Minds. So these numbers are still very fluid. These just are what we believe is a good budgetary estimate on an annual total cost of attendance. Now, at Minds, we do scholarships 2 different ways. The first way we do scholarships is called automatic consideration scholarships. What does that mean? That means your admissions application doubles as a scholarship application. So when you apply to Minds, you got to do something that everyone's a little uncomfortable doing. You got to brag about yourself. You got to brag about the awesome things you've done in high school. I know it's uncomfortable. You're not going to come across as cocky. You're not going to come across as hubris. It's just imagine it and think of it more as advocating for the awesome stuff you've done. So when you apply to us, don't forget to brag about yourself. and you'll be automatically considered for the scholarships you see listed before you on the PowerPoint slide. There are different scholarships based on where you call home because of the different tuition rates. And the amount that is awarded to you, if awarded one of these scholarships, is the annual amount. So you can kind of plan on that every year for 4 years, I will get this scholarship automatically assessed to me as long as I stay in good academic standing with the university. And those are our automatic consideration scholarships. The second way we do scholarships is called the general scholarship application, which are scholarships that like donor support, alumni support, sometimes big time STEM companies in the industry support as well. This is an additional application that you get access to after you're admitted. That's why you apply by November 1st, is to get access to this application. And then some of these scholarships vary in amounts. Some of these are a couple G's, some of these are potential full ride opportunities. So that application typically goes live in mid-December timeframe, mid to late December, and then is usually due like mid to late February, early March, and then you'll get notified about those scholarships usually early to mid-April. So that way you have a good financial understanding before you commit to us on May 1st or by May 1st. Now, you've probably heard a lot about financial aid, right? That's the fact, and that is all, and financial aid comes in the form of grants and loans. And that is all based off of a document called the FAFSA, or the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. If you're familiar with the FAFSA, you might agree with me, it's kind of a tough thing to fill out, right? It's not the most exciting thing to do, but it is something that I always encourage students and families to do, because every university does financial aid differently. Every university will look at the numbers and potentially has different pots of money that you could potentially be considered for when it comes through financial aid process. So the FAFSA will go live October 1st of your senior year. So if you're a senior, that FAFSA is ready to rock and roll if you want to start filling that out. If you're a junior, essentially 1 year, one year from now, right? Essentially when you'll have access for the FAFSA for your freshman year of college. Yes, it is something you want to consider filling out every year, because we understand that your financial situation could evolve from year to year. So it goes live in October. We like to encourage students and families to get us their FAFSA by early in the spring early in the next semester. So early spring 2022 for my seniors, because then we'll build you that financial aid package based off of what we see on the document versus what potential opportunities we have here as a university, as well as looking into those federal programs such as potential loans and grants through those agencies that the federal government works with as well. So there is some great opportunities through the FAFSA. Not required, never required, always suggested is something that I talk to my students and I talk to students with, and that we're always very transparent about here in the Office of Admissions. Now, before I wrap up and open it up for the Q&A, remember we were looking at this through the lens of an investment, right? And when you invest in something, what do you want to see? You want to see the return on the investment. And I think this slide gives you a quick snapshot about truly the power of an investment into mines. You see right there that average starting salary is just right above $73,000 per year. Now that's the highest average starting salary of any four-year school in the state of Colorado. And that's one of the highest ones in the nation overall as well. Now you may be wondering, okay, so high paying jobs, but how do I connect you to those? Well, you got a sense a little bit about all the internship opportunities that Mines has to offer, or that Mines can help connect you with as well. We host two of some of the largest career fairs in the state of Colorado and in the Western US. We take the career fair so seriously, we cancel class on the day of the career fair. So whether you're a first semester, first year student, or you're a graduating semester student, everybody goes to the career fair because we have companies that are literally knocking down the door to meet our students, because they know when you combine the power of a Mines education with the power of the students that come to Mines, it is a great result, and you get a great future STEM professional. And so it truly is something that is a very popular events on campus and very popular events within the industry as well. Now, my favorite stat that I always leave parents and families and students with about the power of a mind's investment is the following stat. So Georgetown University did this study where it looked at all 4,500 higher ed institutions in the United States, 2-year, 4-year, public, private, it didn't matter. It looked at all of them. It looked at the total cost of attendance to go there over the course of the university. And then it looked at the total lifetime earnings of their alumni. They then did this really cool return on calculation equation and process. And mine's placed 19th out of 4,500 on the total return on investment of all the universities in the nation. If you invest in us, we're going to invest in your future. And I think that really is something that we truly believe in here at the university, because college is amazing. And it is a true launching pad from your experience, truly from here anywhere, like PCJ said earlier today, about what a mind's education could do for all of you. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I know that quite a few of you have dropped some Q&A into the chat already. We do have a few minutes left over. Before I throw it over for the closing remarks, are there any questions for the group that I could answer out loud? So yeah, I think the biggest thing to think about is that, okay, so there's been a lot of questions about letters of recommendation, which is a cool, cool aspect of the potential application. Now, letters of recommendation are not required, but they are strongly suggested. So technically, a complete application, a student can have a complete application without submitting a letter of recommendation. Now, the letter of recommendation is a cool tool to have someone advocate on your behalf about your work ethic, potentially you're in the classroom perseverance or anything like that. It could be from a teacher, it could be from a community member, just somebody who's not your parents. I mean, we sometimes get family members letters of recommendation, which, hey, that's totally okay. But it's not, we want someone outside of your family to talk about you as a student or you as a person. If you've already applied to Minds, but still want to submit a letter of recommendation, you can. You can email us at admissions@minds.edu with the letter of recommendation, or you can upload something into your applicant portal if you've activated that as well. The applicant portal is where you kind of get that status update. I like to make the cheesy metaphor of, it's like if you order a pizza and you, like Domino's has that like tracker about where it is along the process. That's kind of what the applicant portal is for you, is you can kind of see where everything is along the process. So you can definitely submit that letter of recommendation via that or via email, and you can submit it after you've already applied too. You can submit new information up until March 1st, really. So if you have a really strong fall semester and you want to submit new grades, or if you take the ACT or SAT again and you want to submit a new score, you can still submit new information along the way. A complete application, though, is the application itself, as well as a transcript and an encouragement of sending the letters of recommendation and an encouragement to fulfill the short responses that we have on our application. Great questions. So yeah, just to kind of emphasize that, there was one final question about what does that asterisk mean? That was next to like the letter of recommendation and those short responses. Those are strongly encouraged parts of the application. Now, my advice is if it says strongly encouraged, please consider sending that our way, because the more we know about you, the better. Because the more we know about you, the more we can advocate for you for potential additional scholarship funds. And advocate for admission in general. So something to keep in mind as you're planning ahead over the course of the next couple of weeks. Oh, great question about scholarships for athletes, or I think Project Lead the Way is what that acronym PLTW means. There are some scholarships for athletics. We are an NCAA Division II school. We are a powerhouse. I'm not going to lie. It's awesome to see some winning sports. Our football team just kicked off against another university about an hour ago. So I'm excited to see what the score is like in a little bit. But yeah, there are some scholarships that really is through the athletic process and through the athletic department. It depends on, each team has like a different awarding philosophy. Depends on the sport, depends on the money available. So that is handled, like I said, through the athletic department itself. We don't have any specific project lead the way scholarships. However, we love seeing that on a transcript because we know if you're taking project lead the way classes that you want to be in STEM, or that you have a higher affinity to STEM. And so that is a huge part of the application process as well. So something to keep in mind when you're looking at the application. We got a couple more minutes. If anybody does have any other questions. Awesome. Well, I do want to just once again say thank you for logging in. And I want to throw the presentation or the webinar over to Louisa Dooley. Louisa is one of our associate directors. She is the associate director of recruitment. She is my boss. She is the superhero of the office. She is what we call she's an OG member of the Minds community. So I'm going to throw it over to Louisa Dooley to provide some closing remarks for today's Discover Minds.
Thanks, Luke. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to thank all the attendees for coming and spending your Saturday with us. And of course, I want to thank our guest participants, our staff, and our student ambassadors for assisting with the event. If you all have the opportunity to come and visit, please do. You can learn more information on tour.minds.edu/visits. Please let us know how we did. Complete the survey that is going to be in your follow-up email. And again, seniors, don't forget to apply by November 1st, our priority deadline. And there's going to be a virtual tour at 1 p.m. and you can access that on your campus group map. Again, thanks for joining us and have a wonderful Saturday.